Come on, Bob, let's go check. We are in Atlanta with the one and only, the great, the voice of the Octagon, Jon Anik.
It's great to be here, Michael Bisping.
Slide
We're in
over,
your trailer.
John.
We're in your wagon and doing a lot of sitting around today, Mike.
Yeah, welcome to the world, the life of being an actor, John.
Yeah.
I'm with the movie star Michael Bisping. This movie stuff's quite a racket, man. A lot of sitting around.
I tell you what, this might be my last movie, okay? Because I don't think I can take this shit any longer.
I'm happy to be part of my third major motion picture, but this is my first extended shoot. We're here for 10 days.
Well, I'm here for 11.
That's right.
I'm here for 11. But yeah, we are here in Atlanta. We're shooting something. We can't say what, but we're both on set. And it's great to have a familiar face around.
It is.
My brother John, we're killing some time in the trailers because that is what the acting life is all about. It is fun. It is great. And we're very lucky to get this kind of thing. But we thought we'd kill a bit of our boredom and talk about a few things. John, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. And Michael, as many of you know, has been a part of a lot of different movies. This is the first time I've had like a trailer. So I'm trying to sort of manage boredom, and I figured he might have been taking a nap, but our trailers are connected, so I didn't know what the etiquette was. I mean, can I come say hi? So here we are. I'm sorry for waking.
No, it's quite all right. But there's a humble little couch behind me. You know, I've got my suit on, and I was led down. I closed my eyes. I'm having a little nap, and Jon Anik was making a lot of noise outside, and I thought, you know what? He's probably bored. I'll wake up. I'm not being a good teammate.
Come on, Chet. I'm bored, Chet. I think Chet's sleeping. Check back in on Chet later.
But you know what? He's probably bored. I'll wake up. I'm not being a good teammate. You know what I mean? I'm like, fuck off, John. I'm having a nap.
Right.
I'm having a nap, but I got him up and straight away roped him into a bit of YouTube content. So I'm like, we're always working.
Always working.
John, you are always working. Tell me about your life, John.
Well, it's crazy. This month in particular is one of the busiest months that I've had in 13 years working for the UFC, right? We have 2 pay-per-views and then our first trip to Saudi Arabia, which is a massive show on ABC. You'll be there as well.
Yep.
So to get this little opportunity that we're taking care of right now to have a 10-day window, it's crazy to think that we can actually fit this in, but it's one of the busier months. I actually am going to leave this weekend in the middle of the shoot. Don't tell anyone to go see my kids. It's been a crazy, crazy stretch, but I'm not sure I'd have it any other way. You know, my prime is a short time, and you know, I guess trying to make the most of it, but it isn't ideal for my family in a lot of respects, as you well know.
Yeah, well, I say the same thing all the time. Obviously, you know, I'm very busy, but I'm blessed, you know, and it says, oh, I'm blessed. No, but I'm very, very fortunate, you know, and yeah, okay, it's a lot of time from home and it's a lot of traveling away and not seeing the children, and my wife is by herself at home. But, you know, the life of a former fighter can be a real tough, hard path.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've had different paths. We've ended up in the same place, and no complaints, but that's us basically complaining about what a great life we have and how hard we have it, jet setting all over the bloody world.
Yeah.
But it's true though. People think, because I say like, oh, I'm going to Brazil for work. They go, wow, Brazil, that's amazing. I was like, no, you see the airport, you see the hotel, you see the arena, hotel,
right.
Airport, hotel bar a little bit at times, maybe a restaurant. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no going to the beach.
We had a conversation about this earlier today and with some other MMA personalities. But yeah, I do think our road life is perpetually misunderstood. And as I've said, so much of my anxiety in life has to do with fighter preparation. I don't get anxiety about performing on pay-per-view, staring into a camera and addressing millions of people when Conor McGregor is fighting. But the anxiety that I have in the prep is real. So yeah,
Same.
I'm not on the beach in Rio. And I know, like I can attest, like you prep a ton.
Dominic, I got one question. Did you do your research?
All I'm wishing is that we had a mute button.
Yeah, so we're not on the beach in Rio, and it's a labor of love, right? Like this, we are choosing to sit here and talk about MMA right now because
Which
that's
we are
what
going to do in just a second.
Want to do, right? Like we could dick around and sleep and watch Netflix, but we want to be here, and Michael Bisping's content's always going to be free.
No, come on, let's go. It is as well. So what should we talk about, John? What's going on in the world of mixed martial arts? What is the top of the sphere, if you will? No pun intended. The sphere is coming up soon. I guess it's going to be UFC 303 Conor McGregor.
Michael Chandler last fought in November of 2022, and certainly there are other guys. Bilal Muhammad knew he was going to have to wait for his championship opportunity. Alexandre Pantoja knew that he was going to have to wait, and he did, and he won the championship. But this fight being potentially in jeopardy is a really inconvenient reality for Michael Chandler right now, because once he had a date, I feel like he was pretty convicted that this fight was going to happen, and maybe it actually will. But so much has been made of the Conor McGregor side of this that I'm sort of inclined to lead with Michael Chandler today. Now, there are reports that maybe they're looking for an alternate opponent or fight. It's just absolutely crazy. I mean, I don't want to speculate, right? But I do know that, broken legs are hard to come back from, my man.
Yeah, I'm just sliding you in a little bit, John, just so we get equal amounts of screen time.
Right.
Or amounts of screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, the reality is we haven't heard anything formal yet from any of the sides, right? So my best guess, because they're all guesses, you've seen a lot of reports out there and things like that. I don't know. Somebody's injured. Is that somebody Michael Chandler? Doesn't look like it, right? He's out there. He's been posting a little bit here and there. Conor McGregor did break his leg. Maybe that's injured. Maybe he's got a cut. Who knows what the situation might be, right? But more than likely, he's injured and they may push the event back. I don't know. Don't take it from me. As I said, these are guesses. But it is shrouded in mystery.
It's really interesting when you look at the calendar as well, in terms of when, if this fight gets delayed, it could potentially land. It's not going to be UFC 304 in Manchester. Probably not going to be UFC 305 in Perth. I know Ronda Rousey fought in Australia. I'm sure Conor has expressed an appetite to fight there, but I highly doubt that he's going to go to Western Australia, with all due respect, right?
Yeah, well, the private jet would be very expensive to get there.
Then you look at UFC.
He can afford it, though.
Then you look at UFC 306 at the Sphere, and this is nothing but my opinion as an MMA fan, right? This is not any informed speculation. This is not any inside information. I just feel like the Sphere is this one-and-done event with this monster budget to showcase the UFC, and I just don't know that you need Conor McGregor and some of the clamor that comes with it for that Sphere live event. So my fan opinion is that they want to separate Conor McGregor and the Sphere, and I could be totally effing wrong on that.
Yeah.
So then you start to look at Abu Dhabi and Madison Square Garden and Vegas in December, and if you're Michael Chandler, you're staring 2 years off in the face.
Yeah, and that's a real shame for Michael Chandler, because as we know, he's a class act, he's a great guy, and he's a hell of a fighter as well, brings nothing but excitement. And McGregor is, the guy that's highly anticipated to come back. He brings a lot of excitement. Of course he does. I've had my ups and downs with McGregor personally over the years.
Do you want to go to fucking mall?
But no one can deny the excitement that he brings. There's nothing quite like a Conor McGregor fight week, and fair play, right? So I guess that remains to be seen. You were just saying before we started, John, there was a tweet or a post from Dustin Poirier in relation to his fight that he had against Islam Makhachev, of course, lost the belt to Islam. Lost his attempt at becoming the champion. But what was the tweet?
So, partially torn ACL, badly broken nose, broken rib.
Partially torn ACL, badly broken nose, broken rib. Wow.
So
Islam's got power.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. He broke his face, and I think Dustin was aware of that actually in the fight. I think somebody maybe touched his nose, and he didn't want any more.
That's why I remember that. He was like, don't do that or something.
So I would imagine you and Anthony Smith touched on Poirier's fighting future as to whether or not he would retire. Or did you not touch on that earlier this week?
No, we did. We did. Anthony and I spoke about it. We think Dustin will probably stick around for a little while, maybe have one or two big fights. I know, obviously, he spoke about not having the appetite to climb that ladder again, which I totally get. But given who he is, given how well he showed up at the weekend, given, I'm assuming, the healthy paychecks that he gets, and still only at 35 years old, the man's a lifelong fighter. This is what he loves. I think he'll go back. He's not going to need to heal up mentally or anything like that. He's not going to go home and feel sorry for himself. He'll be down, of course, because he didn't become the champion, which was a lifelong dream. Yeah. However, the thirst to get back in there and fight against maybe a Justin Gaethje for a rubber match, potentially a rematch against Max Holloway. There's even a fourth Conor McGregor matchup, even though he says he doesn't want that negative energy. There's a lot of big opportunities for fun fights with Dustin Poirier at maybe 170 pounds, not even 155. You know what I'm saying? He's still a fighter, and I still think he's got a lot to give the sport.
I think he has a lot to give the sport. I just don't know what's going to happen, and I bring it up in the context of this injury because we'll see the extent to which that partially torn ACL has to be healed, right? I also have said, and I said this on our podcast this week, I do think this is a fairly fitting note upon which to go out. Highly competitive against the decorated UFC undisputed lightweight champion. You didn't bring up a fight that I think will get Dustin excited enough to come back. What is Dustin Poirier's net worth right now? Is it $15 to $20 million? Because if it is...
Do you think it is?
I don't know. But if it is, coming back for $1.5 million, and again, I'm just throwing out a number there.
So how do you quantify getting to 15 million? Because that's a large number.
Yes, right. So I don't know how much the hot sauce plays into all of this. There were two
That's a lot of hot sauce, bro.
There were two
There's a lot of hot sauce.
Right, so hear me out, right? And maybe it's 10 million.
Get closer
right?
for the
But hey,
microphone.
financial advisors will tell you that you need like $7 million to retire right now.
Okay.
Right? So,
okay. We look like two schoolboys, by the way. So we're giving business advice.
So I don't know what his net worth is. You know, do I think it's north of $10 million? I do. Now let me go through this real quick. 2 Conor McGregor pay-per-views, right?
Did he get the red panty night though? Because just because you fight Conor doesn't mean you get it.
I would imagine he got pay-per-view points.
Okay, yeah, I'm not saying he didn't, but I'm saying it's just something to consider. I'm sure that he got paid very handsomely.
I can assure you at UFC 291, when he was the main event for the BMF title, that he and Justin Gaethje got pay-per-view points.
Okay,
on that night.
okay.
And I'd imagine that pay-per-view did pretty well.
I would assume so.
There was perhaps some late negotiation for the Benoit Saint-Denis fight at UFC 299, if you recall.
Yep.
Right? He sort of maybe put that fight in jeopardy there for 24 hours or
okay.
so, right? Either way, I just think that, and I think he's managed his money well, and...
So what we're saying is, regardless, there's been multiple fights where he's been a partnership in the pay-per-view program. He's made a lot of money. He'll definitely have millions of dollars. There's also these other endeavors, which I'm sure there's things that we don't know about. There always is. I'm involved in all kinds of little business ventures and investments here and there. And of course, there's the hot sauce as well.
Yeah.
So he might retire. Let's say he's got $15 million. Does 1.5 to make him want to come back?
Well, I think it is part of it. I really do. Because you can't make money like you can make in the octagon anywhere else. And Henry Cejudo found that out acutely. He's already come back and fought twice, right? And he's trying to get a third fight. But in terms of the matchups for Dustin Poirier, right? Nate Diaz at 170 pounds. I think even though there's some noise with that fight, maybe not unlike a Conor McGregor or Colby Covington fight, there's less noise. And you know that Nate's going to show up on fight night even if he's injured, right? See, you got to get somebody who, when they sign on the dotted line, you know that training camp is going to be worth the squeeze and they're actually going to compete. He's 2-0 against Max Holloway. If Max Holloway's BMF belt was on the line, does the BMF belt itself, is that a draw for Dustin Poirier? I don't know the answer to that, but I think the Holloway trilogy, when you're up 2-0, doesn't necessarily have tremendous appeal. A fight with Justin
I was going to say he's already won 2 fights, so that actually does nothing for him mentally in terms of his legacy.
Right.
Of course, there will be a financial incentive. There will be a BMF belt, but it isn't the lightweight championship that he's yearned for so long.
So the trilogy fight with Justin Gaethje, I think, makes sense. It makes financial sense, but I don't know that that's a fight that, when Dustin says to Joe Rogan after this most recent fight, what am I fighting for?
If I do fight again, what am I fighting for? Just to fight? It has to. I've done that 50 times. You know, I don't know. I got a little girl I love, and I got to see. I think this could be it, honestly, Joe.
A trilogy fight donating brain cells against Justin Gaethje, to me, that doesn't make a ton of sense if I'm Dustin Poirier, right? And then real quick, Volkanovski, right? Alexander Volkanovski has clamored for fights against Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje. Clamor's probably the wrong verb, but in our fighter meetings, he has talked about fighting those lightweights even before he challenged Islam Makhachev for the title. Some people would argue Alexander Volkanovski's on the goddamn Mount Rushmore of MMA, and yet if you're Dustin Poirier fighting the smaller man, when you already have 2 wins over Conor McGregor, 2 wins over Max Holloway, you beat Eddie Alvarez, you beat Justin Gaethje, beating Volk is a tremendous help to have. He's one of the greatest of all time, but bigger man fighting the smaller man, I just don't know.
And let's not forget, and with all respect to Volk, because we all love Volkanovski, the man is an absolute legend of a human being and also as a fighter. He did just lose his last 2 in a row and he got finished twice as well. So again, maybe it doesn't have the same magnitude as what it once might have had. Also, regarding the injuries, I think that's something really to consider now as well, because he's 35 years old. They talk about this curse, the old man curse, that Volk showed up dressed as, with a flat cap and the walking stick and everything. But there is something to that. I was 37 when I retired. He's not too far behind that, let's be honest. Now with a partially torn ACL, a broken nose and a broken rib, the reality is now that the adrenaline's worn off, what are we on? It's Wednesday. He's in a lot of pain. He's bloody miserable. He doesn't care about losing the fight. He cares about what he's feeling when he wakes up. The fact that he can't breathe through his nose, that he's going to go see a doctor, probably have surgery on his nose, potentially have surgery on his knee. So it's going to be at least a year anyway, right? Let's be honest. Now he's 36. And by then, the life has moved on even more. His wife, his family, his children, his grandmother, his mother, you know, they get in there, they influence you, they talk to you. You don't need this. Look at the life you live. He lives down in, does he still live in Louisiana?
Yes.
$15 million goes a long way in Louisiana, bro, right? Dustin ain't ever fighting again. I think when you put it like that and you set that kind of scene, enjoy the riches. And we were talking about this before, and I hate to bring myself into it, but we were backstage with some other MMA people. We can't say who. And we were talking about injuries. And this person that we were speaking to wasn't a fighter, but someone that's been around the sport at the highest level. And you would all know his name. And he's going through the same things, so many injuries. And he said, Mike, let me ask you something. And it's like, my neck's fucked. I've got 2 fake knees. You know about the one eye. My wrist is all deformed. I've got to get a surgery on that. I've got a broken back in 2 places. Wouldn't change a damn thing, because I live the life now. I'm sitting here with Jon Anik, for crying out loud, on a movie set in Atlanta. I'm flying to Saudi Arabia. I'm going to Vegas. I do a sport that I love. I'm involved with a sport that I am truly, utterly so passionate about, you know. And this person was saying that he doesn't get paid to do his job. He gets paid for the traveling. And that's a great way to put it. So even though Dustin Poirier, to bring you back to what we're talking about, he's suffering right now and he's got all the injuries and all the rest of it. And yeah, he's not the champ. He's got the legacy. He's got the money. He's changed the fortune of his family. His daughter is set. She's going to have amazing opportunities as she goes forward. And I think the more he has time to sit down and let all that kind of sink in and soak in and understand that that's his reality, then I don't think he will fight again.
And perhaps above all else, I'm not a fighter, but as Michael found out today, I've been knocked out cold twice playing basketball.
There'll be a third soon, I tell you what. Sure. If he doesn't get out of this, if he ever wakes me up again.
Hit my head, I know. Won't happen again. So I hit my head on a basketball floor twice. In high school, my final game ended with me completely out, right? So in terms of Dustin Poirier and his brain, and I don't know if pro fighters think that way, but if I'm DP, right, and I'm looking at my Bank of America checking account balance and thinking to myself, I've had 40 pro fights, and he says 50, but at least on our numbers, he's had 40 pro MMA fights, and he's still sharp as a fucking tack. So he's got his brain, and he did just get knocked out by Justin Gaethje last summer, right? He did just break his face against Islam Makhachev. Like, you got your brain. You know, I just don't know what fight it is. That's why I think the Nate Diaz fight is the only fight to me of all the ones I've heard that I think would pique Dustin's interest enough to have that one final fight.
Because it's something new. It's a legendary opponent. People would want to see that. We'd all fancy Dustin's chances. No disrespect to Nate Diaz, just stylistically, you know. So, that is an interesting call. John, I want to ask you something, because I don't know if you've ever spoken about, you know, like, everyone knows I was a fighter. I started doing work on Fox Sports, the pre- and post-fight shows and all the rest of it. Then I started commentating The Contender, and then kind of got my foot in, got my claws into this role. How the hell does Jon Anik end up sitting here in this role? Give him a quick bit of your background, John. I am genuinely intrigued to know.
Well, I'll do the efficient 90-second version.
There we go.
Maybe it'll be less.
The elevator pitch.
I was hosting the Mouthpiece Boxing radio show in Boston, and that's what gave me some combat sports experience. When several years later, I was at ESPN, embedded in Bristol, Connecticut, as a full-time employee, and ESPN Digital Media was launching a show called MMA Live, which later would air on ESPN UK. Michael Bisping did not enjoy me on that particular program, but that is neither here nor there. So
in
2009, there was one point where I almost got a short notice opportunity to call a WEC fight. Todd Harris was ill. He ended up getting an IV, and he was able to call those fights. But ESPN at the time was not going to allow me to go call those WEC fights, even though I got a call from Pete Dropic and Craig Borsari at that point in time. So I'd later get an opportunity to do Bellator Season 1 in 2009.
So Eddie Alvarez moving on. Takes care of the hype and the pressure, no problem. He is on to the semifinals.
Wasn't able to do Bellator Season 2 because of my ESPN contract. In 2011, when John Jones beat Shogun Rua, I'm there with ESPN. I'm backstage. And my now boss, Craig Borsari, comes up to me. He says, hey, Come next year, we're doubling our schedule from 20 live events to 40. We want to give you an opportunity to be a play-by-play guy. Have your agent call me on Monday. I didn't have an agent. I hired one on Sunday. Hopefully Craig doesn't see this. I had an agent. But no. So my agent called Craig, and the rest is history. But I think Lorenzo Fertitta was a big impetus for me getting hired because he watched MMA Live and maybe appreciated my work. But thank God I had that Bellator experience, and very thankful to Bjorn Rebney for giving me that opportunity in 2009 because it gave me the confidence to leave ESPN in 2011 and latch on to mixed martial arts. Because real quick, in 2007, I go to Elite XC1. Frank Shamrock, Henzo
Where
Gracie.
was Elite XC1? Was that Hawaii?
Tunica, Mississippi.
Oh, love Tunica, Mississippi.
So, but dude, that was the first time I saw mixed martial arts live in person. Frank Shamrock, Henzo Gracie. I was there with my boxing show, and that's the night everything changed because I saw MMA live for the first time, and I was like, wow, this is incredible.
And I've got one thing to say to that. In fact, two things. Number one, and we're very happy as well, because the world of mixed martial arts would not be the same, John, without you calling those big events, and I truly mean that. But number two, that was way over 90 seconds. It wasn't even close.
All right, somebody time it,
dude, for crying out loud, that was not 90 seconds, no way. So while you were talking, going way over 90 seconds, I Googled MMA to see what comes up.
Yeah.
We just have some random topics. You were here for this one. Michal Oleksiejczuk, who, of course, the referee stopped it at UFC 302. Kevin Holland had him in an armbar. Michal Oleksiejczuk says the arm didn't break at UFC 302, disagrees with the stoppage. So the arm wasn't broken. Herb Dean stopped it for fighter safety, which is, of course, paramount. I didn't like the stoppage, although I didn't have a problem with Herb. Other people agreed with it. What is your stance?
So I stay in my lane on these broadcasts. Now, you may have noticed in that moment, maybe I challenged Joe Rogan a little bit, or at least I was trying to push over the fact that Michal Oleksiejczuk was protesting and his arm did not appear to be broken. But everyone who I trust, like Joe Rogan and Kenny Florian, alleges that there was a clear dislocation and the fight should have been stopped. But I am in total agreement with you. Just as the play-by-play guy, I'm not an analyst. So in that moment, I'm not going to sit there and tell you that I don't know, man. I don't know if it's but in the moment, I did not like it. And especially when I saw Michal protest immediately, I felt like it was a little bit quick.
And he also used the arm that was in the armbar to support himself as he stood back up. And I always say, we go through this sport, and I did a video on it recently, so I won't bore you on it too much, but I will repeat myself quickly. It all hurts. Getting kneed in the face hurts. Getting your nose broke hurts. Dustin Poirier is prime example of that. Having partial ACL tears, they goddamn hurt. It all hurts. Being in an armbar, that hurts. If you want it to stop, you tap. If you don't tap, there's no need to fucking stop it, because we can get out at any moment, and it happens every single event. That's all he had to do, and it's not like it was flopping around like Jamal Hill against Paul Craig. So yeah, it is what it is. Well done to Kevin Holland. I am not trying to take away from that win. It was a slick armbar. It was deep. Herb Dean made the call, and I guarantee if maybe he didn't make the call, he probably would have got it eventually. You know, because you can only endure that kind of pain for so long, or until it actually snaps. So as I say, I'm not taking away from Kevin Holland. But Tony Ferguson, Charles Oliveira, he was in the deep armbar for a while. Dan Hardy, George St. Pierre in an armbar for a while. You know. What else have we got, John? What's on your mind? Anything?
Well, it's interesting when you think about UFC 303 real quickly. And I don't know if you wanted to do this.
No, please, let's do it. We're doing it.
So, if there was a 30% chance that Conor McGregor was going to compete at UFC 303, and please take this from an MMA fan and not as the play-by-play voice of the UFC. If there was a 30% chance that he was going to compete, why do you cancel the press conference? So, when Daniel Cormier and others come out and say it's worrisome that it's postponed, and I think maybe even now canceled, because if he's fighting, why are we canceling the press conference, right? Then my initial thought was, is there a cut, but then maybe is it leg related? What do you do with UFC 303? What people got to understand, even though I know it's a $20 million live gate and everybody's freaking out, right? The UFC live event has never been a hotter commodity, right? The appetite for UFC tickets and the amount of people who want them in Vegas right now is absolutely crazy. So I'm confident in this roster and this promotion to put together a great main event. But I don't know, like if you're Michael Chandler And you're proposed with waiting till Madison Square Garden in November, headlining UFC 303. I think at this point you got to compete.
Yeah, for sure. If I'm Michael Chandler and I'm given that opportunity, then yeah, you still got to compete, because the thing is, he's hanging around for the quote-unquote red panty night, okay? But at some point, I'm not saying he moves on from the fight, because it's a massive event. He's hyped for it. McGregor's hyped for it. We're all hyped for it. So I would say take another fight if that fight still presents itself as an option. But if he loses, then McGregor's probably not going to want to fight him. So even though I was saying, yeah, he's got to fight, as I'm talking, I'm disagreeing with myself. He's waited this long. What would another month or two be? Now, listen, we don't know. The fight still might go ahead, although the press conference has been cancelled. You know what I mean? It has been cancelled. So we don't know what's going on. I think in the next 72 hours or so, something formal will come out. So we're kicking the ball around here. I haven't spoken to anybody at the UFC. I don't know if you have.
No, but Michael Chandler is readying for a fight 24 days from now at 170 pounds. Now, Alexander Volkanovski several times has weighed in as a backup. He has saved the day.
I love just saving the day as well. I'm just that good of a guy. I might have to save the day. I'll save the day.
He has offered himself up in this particular setting, but
I mean, I'll put a few more feelers out. Conor McGregor, Chandler, whatever.
Dana White doesn't like catch weights, right? So you're staring at Chandler Volkanovski at welterweight. I don't think Michael's all of a sudden going to sign a lightweight contract right now. So I understand that sort of, those are two names that have been bandied about, but I think you got to widen your scope here and think across all divisions.
I mean, let's just, obviously we both commentate for the UFC, so this is just us sitting here as...
I know nothing.
We're sitting here as actors, darling. We're actors. This is true actors. Just happen to be in Atlanta, chewing the fat about the scenarios.
Hey, can I get a coffee out here?
Yeah, that's right, John. That's right. Start throwing some shit around. Get a bit of respect. Anyway, let's just assume that they need to get a replacement, and this is just hypothetical, of course. Who would that be? What kind of fight could replace that? Now, we know McGregor is by far the biggest star, but what other star power could we bring in, John?
So Renato Moicano has offered his name up, and while it's a big one that is on the rise, the name on the tip of my tongue is Charles Oliveira.
I love Renato Moicano. I'm sorry. Renato, I love you, brother, and I will show you the money all day long.
Moicano wants money!
That ain't the name.
No.
That ain't the name.
I said Renato Moicano has...
it's all going wrong.
Has mentioned now, obviously his countryman Charles Oliveira is like a dream fight for Money Moicano, right? But for me, when I have pulled... Oh, now we got Coke Zero all over the trailer.
All over the...
You want to switch trailers?
No, we're good, bro. We're good. Crack on. Keep it rolling.
Right.
We got to stay professional, John.
What were we talking about before you
Charles
started? Yeah, so when I polled UFC fans recently, and I did sort of an informal poll after Alexander Volkanovski lost to Ilia Topuria.
Real quick, do you think Leonardo DiCaprio's cleaning up his own spilt Coke Zero in his trailer?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Do I need to page wardrobe that your Mark Russell suit now is covered in Coke Zero?
Mark Russell, by the way, does an amazing suit, which is what I'm wearing in the shirt.
Yeah.
Not the tie, but Mark Russell, amazing tailor. You should check him out. Anyway.
And if you really want to know, all my Mark Russell suits got lost by FedEx, so I'm wearing like Calvin Klein off the rack right here. Sorry, Mark. I was going to wear the pink suit too. But Alexander Volkanovski loses to Ilia Topuria, and a lot of our fan base was really upset because Volk is their favorite fighter. So at that point in time, I polled the MMA masses, or at least my followers, as to who their favorite fighter was. I've never gotten more response in my life on social media, right? Because I think a lot of people are passionate about who their favorite fighter is. And the name that kept coming up, other than John Jones and others, was Charles Oliveira. And he obviously fought fairly recently. I don't know his availability, but he's the guy that I would be trying to build this card around, because as a matchmaker, he's bulletproof as far as entertaining, and I think the internal metrics suggest that he's like a top 5 UFC superstar.
Well, the reality is he's one of my favourite fighters because he's just all-out excitement. And granted, he lost at UFC 300 to Arman Sarukian, stylistically a very tough matchup for anybody. And he was able to, this is no disrespect to Arman, he was able to spoil the fight. He was able to spoil the excitement and control Oliveira and fight smart, which is what you got to do, because Oliveira will just walk anybody down. That's why I say he's one of the most exciting fights that we've ever seen in the sport, not only in this era, throughout the history of mixed martial arts, because he can get it done everywhere. He's got knockout power. He's got incredible jiu-jitsu. So he just walks forward, super aggressive, and doesn't really care about the consequences, which just makes for a ridiculously exciting proposition. The reality is, who do you put him up against? Because he just lost to Arman. All right, let's forget about that. Yeah. Look at what he's done in the sport. It's incredible. It doesn't have to be a 155er. Could be a 45. Could be Volkanovski.
Right.
Does that do it?
So I thought that maybe you have Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler fight in a rematch at 70. And again, I'm just thinking out loud here, right? But you keep Chandler on the card. They do have connective tissue because they fought once before, and Michael Chandler was this close to knocking him out and becoming the undisputed champion. So I think maybe there could be something there. Could you pull a Nate Diaz out of your hat? I think probably not. But, I don't. There was one other name that I was thinking about when we were talking about Charles and Michael Chandler. It'll come back to me, But when you look divisionally, like the BMF belt, right? Could you do Max Holloway fought Charles Oliveira in a main event in Saskatoon in 2015, if memory serves, and Max Holloway won that fight. But Charles Oliveira, it's fine.
I'm cleaning
Charles
up cold stains on my trousers.
Charles Oliveira got injured early in that fight. We might be getting called here.
Hold on, this is a movie star moment. Hold on.
Hi, you ready for us?
Both in here.
Yeah, we're doing a little YouTube.
What do you need?
Yeah, ready?
Are we requested on set?
We're done. Wrap it up.
You need my artistic brilliance? She doesn't want to be on camera. I just say you need my artistic brilliance on set quickly because the economical.
We gotta go.
Well, this was fun.
But no, Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira fought in the main event. And I think you could do that fight at maybe 65 for the BMF belt. But hey, thanks everybody for indulging us. We gotta go.
We gotta go, Joe. Bye.